Y'all, get in here right now because Cardi B just pulled the pin on a legal grenade, and Tasha K is sitting on top of it acting like she don't smell the smoke. Baby, I'm not a lawyer. I will say that on the front end. But what I just read in this new court filing made my jaw hit the floor, slide across the room, and slap somebody. Because this ain't a lawsuit no more. This is a takeover. This is a receivership setup. This is the Alex Jones blueprint, and Tasha K is about to be the next exhibit in the museum of people who didn't shut up when the judge told them to shut up. Let me say it again so the back row can hear me. Cardi B is not trying to get paid anymore. She is trying to take the whole company. The YouTube channel. The trademark. The website. Unwind with Tasha K, Kebi Studios. Yelon. Stash Media. Whatever name they renamed it to last Tuesday at 11:47 p.m. when they thought nobody was looking. All of it. Every single asset. Every dollar moving through every account with that woman's social security number anywhere near it. Pull up a chair, get your tea, get a snack, because we are going line by line through what just happened, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this case is no longer about defamation. It is about a corporate execution. Now, here is how I found out. I am over on attorney Simone Redwine's channel, minding my business, watching her break this down, and she casually drops a sentence that made me rewind 3 times. She said, and I quote her loosely because I'm paraphrasing, that the court can pierce the corporate veil of the LLC. Y'all, when an attorney says the words pierce the corporate veil, what she is really saying in plain English is, the shell you hid behind is about to be ripped off your body in front of God and everybody. The little LLC costume Tasha K and her husband were wearing. Off. The fake business name they kept rebranding. Off. The mysterious transfer of the house from her name into his name. Off. The receivership trust that Cardi B's lawyers are asking for. That is the bag they are about to scoop everything into. And then they walk away with it. Did you catch that? They walk away with it. Let me back up, because some of y'all are coming in late and you don't even know what is going on. So here is the speed run of how we got here. Tasha K spent years on YouTube saying things about Cardi B that were not true. Cardi B sued her for defamation. Cardi B won. Cardi B was awarded around $4 million in damages. That number alone should have been a fire alarm. That number alone should have made any rational person sit down, log off, go to therapy, and start a payment plan. But what did Tasha do? She kept talking. She kept the channel running. She filed bankruptcy. She allegedly moved assets around like she was playing 3-card Monte with a federal judge watching. And now, 3 years later, instead of taking the L and quietly mailing checks, she is about to lose the entire empire she spent a decade building. Because she would not stop talking. And here is the part nobody is connecting the dots on. Nobody. I have not heard one creator say what I am about to say. This is the angle that is hiding in plain sight, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Cardi B's lawyers are not freestyling. They are not making this up as they go. They are running a play that already worked in court at the federal level. They are running the Alex Jones playbook. You remember Alex Jones? The conspiracy theory man who spent years claiming that the Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax, that those babies didn't die, that the grieving parents were actors. Those families sued him for defamation. Those families won. The damages came in at, listen to me, around $1 billion with AB. Alex Jones did what people who lose defamation cases love to do. He tried to slide assets out the back door. He shuffled companies. He played bankruptcy roulette. He acted like the money was just gone, gone, gone. Y'all know how it ended. His assets got put into receivership. His InfoWars empire got auctioned off. And the satirical website The Onion put in a bid to buy his platform and turn it into a parody site, with 100% of the proceeds going to the Sandy Hook families. Read that sentence again. The man's own company was sold to a comedy website for the purpose of mocking him, and the victims got the money. That is not a story. That is a precedent. That is a roadmap. And Cardi B's legal team is holding that roadmap with both hands. This is the part where some of y'all in the comments are going to say, but Tasha K isn't worth what Alex Jones was worth, Cardi B wouldn't want some random YouTube channel. What would she even do with Unwind with Tasha K? Baby. Sit down. The point is not whether Cardi B personally wants to log into that YouTube channel and start uploading videos. The point is that the asset has value, the asset can be sold, the asset can be assigned, the asset can be auctioned, and any dollar that comes out of that auction goes straight to Cardi B's judgment. That trademark? That can be sold. That website domain, TashaLive.com or whatever variation she has? That can be sold. The intellectual property tied to the brand? Sold. The subscriber list, the analytics, the back catalog, the contracts with brand sponsors? Liquidated. Cardi B doesn't have to want it. She just has to be allowed to take it and turn it into cash. And the way this filing is written, the court is being asked to give her exactly that permission. And let me throw a little extra context on this fire, because some of y'all don't realize how valuable a built-out YouTube channel actually is. A channel with millions of subscribers, with a decade of search engine indexed content, with brand deal contacts already negotiated, with thumbnail templates, with editing systems, with a community management workflow already running, is not a free thing. That is a real business with real enterprise value. A media buyer would look at that and run real numbers. Average monthly views, average RPM, average sponsorship rate, projected growth, audience retention metrics. They would put a price tag on it. And whatever that price tag is, in a receivership scenario, becomes the price tag a buyer pays into the trust. The trust pays the judgment. The judgment goes to Cardi B. That is how this works. That is the entire pipeline. Let me walk you through the legal language without making your head spin. There are 3 doors Cardi B's lawyers walked through to get here, and each door has a deadbolt that Tasha K personally helped them unlock. Door number 1 is the corporate veil piercing. To pierce the veil, you have to show the court that the LLC was not really being run like a separate business. That the owner was treating the company bank account like her personal checking account. That there were no real boundaries between the woman and the corporation. And what does the filing allege? That Tasha K's husband was running money through that account like it was their household ATM. That there was no independent financial existence. That the LLC was a costume, not a company. The minute the court agrees with that, the corporate veil is gone, and the people behind the company become personally responsible for the judgment. Their personal stuff. Their personal money. Their personal house. For my business owners watching this, let me say it slow. The whole reason you form an LLC in the first place is to put a wall between your business risk and your personal life. That is the entire pitch. That is the entire point. So that if your business gets sued, the people suing the business cannot reach into your house, your car, your savings account, your kid's college fund. The LLC is the wall. But the wall is only a wall if you treat the business like a business. The minute you start mixing personal and business money, paying personal bills out of the business account, paying business bills out of the personal account, refusing to keep clean books, refusing to file proper paperwork, refusing to document transactions like an actual company, the wall becomes a curtain. And a curtain doesn't stop a judgment. A curtain blows in the wind. That is what allegedly happened here. The wall was never really a wall. Door number 2 is fraudulent transfer. This is the door where the husband, bless his soul, walked Cardi B's lawyers straight in and held the door open while they took notes. Because here is what allegedly happened. After the judgment came down, Tasha K dissolved one company. Then a new company appeared, with the same employees, the same clients, the same operations, the same social media accounts, the same content production. It was as if the old company died on Tuesday and the new company was born on Wednesday wearing the dead company's clothes. In legal world, that is not a transition. That is a fraudulent transfer designed to dodge a judgment. And then, on top of that, the residential property in Georgia got moved from her name to her husband's name. 1 month after the defamation judgment. 1 month. Y'all. The timing alone is a confession. Let me sit with that for a beat. 1 month. Think about how many people in this country get blindsided by judgments and have months or years of legitimate financial reorganization that just happens to be coincidental. Sometimes life is a coincidence. Sometimes a property transfer is just a marital planning decision that was always coming. Sometimes a bank account change is just a household administrative task. But when every single one of those events lines up in a 30-day window right after a $4 million judgment lands on your desk, the coincidence card is not in the deck. The court is going to look at that and say, what were the chances? And the answer is, the chances were zero. None of this was coincidence. All of it was choreography. Door number 3 is civil conspiracy. This is where you allege that 2 or more parties knowingly work together to commit a fraud or evade a legal obligation. And the husband, may someone please take his phone away from him, said the quiet part out loud. Under oath. In a deposition. He was asked, did you remove your wife as an authorized user from the Bank of America account that her paycheck was going into? He said yes. He was asked, why? He said, to avoid the garnishment. Baby. 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 He told a judge, in writing, on the record, with his own mouth, that he removed his wife from a bank account specifically to keep Cardi B from being able to legally collect what she was owed. That is not a slip. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a confession with a side of fries. Let me explain to my non-lawyer people what happens in a deposition, because I think some of y'all are picturing a casual conversation. A deposition is not casual. A deposition is a formal legal proceeding where the witness is under oath, where every word is being transcribed by a certified court reporter, where the lawyers asking questions are trained to set traps without you realizing the trap was set, and where everything you say can and will be cited back to you in court, in motions, in filings, and yes, in the eventual judgment against you. A deposition is a war zone with a coffee station. And in that war zone, the husband, on the record, said yes to questions he should have said I do not recall, yes to questions he should have asked his lawyer to step in on, yes to questions that gave Cardi B's team exactly the ammunition they needed. He didn't just walk into the trap. He sat down in it and asked if he could have a snack. It gets worse. Because he didn't stop there. He was asked about the company payroll. He admitted, also under oath, that Tasha K asked him to stop paying her directly from the LLC account so that her income could not be garnished. He complied. And in the filing, when he was asked directly whether he was helping Tasha K avoid paying Cardi B, his answer, by his own admission, was yes. Yes. He said yes. He looked at the question, he understood the question, and he said yes. There is a special kind of stupid that admits to a coordinated fraud scheme out loud while a court reporter is typing every word. That is Olympic stupid. That is gold medal stupid. That is induct him into the Hall of Fame of confessing under oath stupid. And then we get to the real estate. The house in Georgia, that residential property she does not even live in, transferred to the husband's name 1 month after the judgment dropped. When the lawyers asked the husband, under oath, why he did not reverse the transfer when he learned it was potentially improper, his answer was, and I am paraphrasing because I am trying to keep this video monetizable, that he did it to help her avoid the garnishment. He said the words. He said the quiet part with a microphone and a court reporter. The lawyer then asked him directly whether he was helping the debtor avoid paying Cardi B. He said yes. That is not evidence Cardi B's lawyers had to chase down with private investigators and forensic accountants. That is evidence that walked itself into the courtroom, sat down on the witness stand, and signed its own confession in cursive. So now let me explain why this is so much worse than I originally thought. I thought, like a lot of y'all thought, that the worst case scenario for Tasha K was that she had to pay the $4 million. I thought she would have to set up a payment plan, downsize her life, swallow her pride, maybe move into a smaller house, and eventually rebuild. That is what a normal post-judgment situation looks like. But that is not where we are anymore. We are in a place where a judge can sign an order that puts her income into a court-controlled trust. Meaning, if she says she makes $20,000 a month, the court can take that $20,000, give her back a stipend to live on, pay her actual necessary bills, and use everything left over to satisfy the judgment. She loses control of her own paycheck. She loses control of her own bank accounts. She loses control of the businesses bearing her name. She becomes a passenger in her own life. And the driver's seat is a court-appointed receiver who answers to the judge, not to her. I want you to actually picture what that looks like day to day, because I think a lot of viewers are hearing receivership and thinking it sounds technical and dry. It is not dry. It is intimate. It is humiliating. It means a stranger appointed by a judge has access to your bank statements. It means that stranger reviews every transaction. It means that stranger decides whether the Amazon purchase you made last Thursday was a necessary expense or a frivolous one. It means that stranger is the new gatekeeper between you and your own money. It means every brand deal you negotiate from this point forward has to be filtered through that gatekeeper. Every ad payout. Every check from YouTube. Every check from a sponsor. Every check from a side hustle. All of it. Filtered. Reviewed. Approved. Or denied. That is the life on the other side of that order. And once a judge signs it, you do not get out of it until the judgment is satisfied. Period. Now, I want to be fair and objective for a minute, because I do not like when people pile on without giving both sides their flowers. Tasha K is a person. She has a family. She built something. I do not know her personally. But I will tell you what I see, and what I see is a series of decisions that lit the fuse on her own life. The first decision was continuing to talk about Cardi B after she signed a non-disparagement agreement. Y'all, a non-disparagement agreement is one of the easiest contracts in the world to follow. You literally just don't say the person's name. You don't subtweet. You don't post a thumbnail. You don't drop a hint. You do not engage. That is it. That is the whole assignment. And she could not do it. The second decision was the rebranding scheme. Going from Kebby Studios to Yelon to Stash Media. Y'all, when you change a business name 3 times in a short window after a giant judgment, you might as well send the court a handwritten note that says, please look into this. Because every rename is a new paper trail. Every rebrand is a new signature, a new filing, a new bank account, a new chance for somebody on Cardi B's legal team to scream, gotcha. And they did. They got her. They got him. They got both of them. And now the court is sitting on a mountain of paperwork that all points to the same conclusion. These people were trying to outrun the judgment with a costume change. The third decision, and to me this is the most painful one because it was so avoidable, was the husband co-signing the whole operation in a deposition. Listen. If you are ever in a deposition, and your lawyer told you what to say, and what not to say, and you go in there and start telling on yourself like you are at a confessional with a priest, baby, that is not loyalty. That is not love. That is sabotage with extra steps. Whatever he thought he was doing to protect her, he handed Cardi B's lawyers a literal binder of admissions, gift-wrapped, with a little bow on top. And now those admissions are the centerpiece of a filing that is trying to take everything they own. And here is something I want every single woman in this comment section to write down somewhere safe. The man who is supposed to protect your business interests cannot be the same man making decisions about your business interests if he does not have the temperament or training to handle a legal interview. Love is love, marriage is marriage, partnership is partnership. But the moment a judgment lands, you need a real lawyer making real decisions, and you need everybody in your household coached on what they can and cannot say. Because confessions under oath are not edits you can undo. They are not posts you can delete. They are not comments you can mute. They are official court records. Forever. The husband's words are now permanently part of the case file. They will be cited in motions for the rest of this litigation. They will be quoted in appellate briefs if this case ever goes up the chain. They are unkillable. They are immortal. And they are devastating. Let me pause for a second because somebody in the chat is going to ask me, why are we here, why is this happening, why didn't she just pay? And the honest answer is, she didn't think it would get to this. None of them did. They thought the bankruptcy was the parachute. They thought the rebrands were the disguise. They thought the husband being on the accounts was the firewall. And in some scenarios, in some cases, with some plaintiffs, those moves might have actually worked. But Cardi B is not some plaintiffs. Cardi B has a war chest. Cardi B has lawyers who do not lose sleep. Cardi B has the patience of a woman who already won round 1 and is now methodically dismantling round 2 with surgical precision. This is not a fistfight anymore. This is a chess game. And Tasha K is playing checkers with her queen on the wrong color. Now, the parallel to Alex Jones is not just a vibe. Let me tell you why this comparison is the bullseye and not a metaphor. In the Alex Jones case, the bankruptcy court eventually allowed his assets to be sold to satisfy the judgment to the Sandy Hook families. The Onion put in a bid to buy InfoWars, and the plan, beautifully, brilliantly, was to convert it into a satirical platform that mocked the very man who had built it. 100% of those proceeds were going to flow back to the families who had been harmed. The whole thing was a public, legally sanctioned reclamation of a platform that had been used to do harm. Now just picture for a second, Cardi B's team executing the same play. Picture a court-appointed receiver taking control of the Tasha K YouTube ecosystem. Picture the assets going to auction. Picture a bidder, any bidder, picking up that trademark and that channel and turning it into something that has nothing to do with what it used to be. Picture every ad dollar, every brand deal, every monetized view flowing not into Tasha K's pocket but into Cardi B's judgment account. That is not impossible. That is not far-fetched. That is a precedent that has already been blessed by a federal court in a case that was bigger and more public than this one will ever be. And here is the kicker. The kicker that should keep Tasha K up at night staring at the ceiling. The Alex Jones bankruptcy estate had access to specialized lawyers and trustees designed to navigate exactly this kind of mess, and they still lost control of the assets. They still got auctioned. They still saw the platform converted. If a man with $1 billion of damages on his head, and a national platform, and a long bench of attorneys could not stop the receivership freight train, what makes anybody think a YouTube creator with a rebrand-heavy paper trail and a husband who confesses under oath is going to stop it? Nothing. Nothing makes anybody think that. The math is the math. Now I want to say something a lot of creators are not going to say out loud, because they are scared of subscriber pushback. But I am going to say it because we are all friends here. Tasha K spent years building a brand on talking about other people's lives. Some of it was funny. Some of it was sharp. Some of it was the kind of pop culture commentary that, when it is done well, makes a YouTube channel addictive. But somewhere along the line, the brand crossed from commentary into invention. And once you cross that line, you are no longer protected by the same shields that legitimate journalists and commentators have. You are exposed. And when you are exposed, and you get sued, and you lose, and you then double down by continuing to talk after you sign a non-disparagement agreement, you are not a victim of the system. You are a person who knew exactly what the rules were and decided the rules did not apply to you. That is not a tragedy. That is a choice. And choices have consequences. Let me read you a couple of the most chef's kiss moments from the filing, in plain English, because some of these lines are too good to leave on the cutting room floor. The filing essentially says that Yelan, the new LLC, stepped directly into Kebi Studios' shoes in every operational aspect. It assumed management of the same social media platforms. It served the same clients. It performed the same services. The content production. The contact information. There were no gaps in operations. So in legal speak, the court is being asked to find that the new company is just the old company with a new name tag. Like when you walk into a restaurant that closed and reopened the next day with a new sign but the same menu, the same cook, and the same cat sleeping in the window. Nobody is fooled. Nobody. The filing also points out that Tasha K's husband ran both entities. Y'all. When you do a fraudulent transfer, you do not leave the same employees, the same management, the same operations, and the same husband in charge. At minimum, you change the people. You at least pretend like a sale happened. Sell it to a cousin. Sell it to a brother. Sell it to a friend of a friend. Anything. But no. They kept everything identical. The husband is still the husband. The business is still the business. The customers are still the customers. The only thing that changed was the LLC paperwork. And that is the easiest fraudulent transfer to prove in the history of fraudulent transfers. A first-year law student could prove that one with a crayon and a napkin. And here is something the filing notes that I think is the most damning detail of all. When the lawyers asked Tasha K, in sworn testimony, to identify a single written term of any agreement between Yelan and the management arrangement and the LLC, she could not name one. Not one. There is no paperwork because there was no real sale. There is no contract because there was no real consideration. There is no receipt because there was no transaction. The whole thing was built on the assumption that nobody would look. And then somebody looked. And then everybody looked. And now the receipts they cannot produce are louder than the receipts they tried to hide. I want to share something with my real-life small business owners who are watching this, because there is a real lesson here that has nothing to do with celebrity gossip. If you are going to sell a business, even to your own family, you have to do it the right way. There has to be a written agreement. There has to be consideration, which is the legal word for the money or value being exchanged. There has to be a closing. There has to be paperwork that survives a third-party review years later. Because the second you skip a step, you have created exactly the kind of paper trail Cardi B's lawyers are dancing on right now. A real sale is documented. A fake sale is improvised. And improvisation is what gets you in front of a judge explaining why none of the basic documents exist. Now let me put on my regular person hat and say what we are all thinking. Who is advising this woman? Who? Where is the friend, the sister, the auntie, the cousin who was supposed to grab her by the shoulders and say, sit down, log off, stop talking, pay the judgment, rebuild your life? Where is that person? Because every adult in this woman's life with 2 firing brain cells should have been in her ear from the day that defamation judgment dropped. Stop. Just stop. Stop posting. Stop renaming. Stop hiding. Stop moving houses. Stop transferring titles. Stop the whole charade. Take the L, pay what you owe. And rebuild from the ground up like every other person in this country who got hit with a judgment they could not afford. That is the move. That has always been the move. The move is humility, not gymnastics. But humility costs ego, and ego is the most expensive thing a human being can buy. Ego is what made her keep talking. Ego is what made her keep posting. Ego is what made her treat a $4 million judgment like an inconvenience instead of an asteroid. Ego is what made her husband sit in a deposition and answer questions like he was on a podcast instead of in a courtroom. Ego is what is about to cost both of them everything they built. Every brand sponsor. Every YouTube payout. Every subscriber. Every domain. Every dollar. Gone. Funneled into a trust. Distributed by a judge. Spent on Cardi B's attorney's fees. Spent on the judgment. And whatever is left over, if anything is left over, going back to a couple who, by then, will be starting from absolute zero in their 40s with a public record of fraud allegations attached to their names forever. And here is what hurts me, genuinely. Not for them. For the lesson. Because every young creator watching this video right now needs to take notes. Take real notes. Pause the video and grab a pen if you have to. Defamation is real. Court orders are real. Non-disparagement agreements are real. Judgments are real. They follow you. They do not expire because you ignore them. They do not vanish because you rebrand. They do not soften because you cry on YouTube. They sit there, gathering interest, gathering attention, gathering ammunition, until one day the plaintiff decides she is bored and her lawyers send the court a filing that says, we would like to take it all now. And the court signs the order. And it is over. And there is no take back, no apology video, no GoFundMe, no rebrand that can fix it. I have been on YouTube long enough to watch a few creators go through public legal nightmares. Some of them learned. Some of them did not. The ones who learned are the ones who, the moment trouble showed up at the door, immediately hired the right people, immediately stopped talking publicly, immediately moved every business decision behind a wall of professional advisors, and immediately stopped feeding the algorithm with content about the case itself. The ones who did not learn are the ones whose channels are now graveyards, whose names are now warnings, whose careers are now case studies in law school classrooms. There are only 2 roads after a defamation judgment. The road of silence and discipline. And the road of stubbornness and noise. The first road is hard but survivable. The second road is shorter but ends in a cliff. Now let me address the people in the chat who are typing as fast as their fingers will let them, saying, but Tasha, this isn't fair, what about her family, what about her income, what about her kids? Listen. Listen with both ears. The system has a mechanism for that. The receivership trust does not strip a person down to literal homelessness. The court can authorize a reasonable living stipend. The court can let necessary bills be paid. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, school stuff for kids. That is not the part of the system that fails. The part of the system that fails is the part where you assume nobody will ever come for what you have, so you do not protect it correctly, so you act like a judgment is a suggestion instead of a court order, and you spend 3 years openly mocking the woman who beat you in court. That is the failure. That is on her. That has nothing to do with the system being unfair. Let me bring this back to the angle that nobody else is talking about, because this is the thing that needs to live rent-free in your brain after you click off this video. Cardi B is not making this up. Cardi B's lawyers are not pioneering anything. They are copying homework from a federal precedent that worked. The Alex Jones receivership and asset sale was not a fluke. It was a teaching moment for the entire plaintiffs' bar in America. Every defamation attorney with a high-profile client watched what happened to InfoWars and took notes. Every law firm with a major influencer or celebrity client now has that precedent in their back pocket. Once a judgment is on the books, and once the defendant starts playing shell games, the playbook is written. It does not matter whether the platform is a national radio show or a YouTube gossip channel. The mechanics are the same. The receivership tools are the same. The asset auction process is the same. The conversion of the platform into something that benefits the plaintiff is the same. And that is why I am telling you, with everything in me, that the worst-case scenario for Tasha K is not just losing money. It is losing the brand. Forever. Imagine logging into your YouTube channel one day and finding out a court order has transferred ownership. Imagine watching a press release announcing that Unwind with Tasha K has been sold to a buyer who has no intention of running it the way you ran it. Imagine seeing a new owner stand on your trademark, on your audience, on your decade of branding, and use it for something completely outside your control. Imagine the proceeds of every ad break, every brand deal, every super chat being routed past your bank account into the bank account of the woman you spent years dragging on the internet. That is not financial loss. That is poetic, biblical, generational reversal. That is the universe folding its arms and saying, we did not get to this point overnight, baby, and you were warned at every single stop along the way. And let me say something else that has been sitting in my chest the whole time I have been recording this. There is a quiet truth in this whole saga, and it is this. Cardi B is not the villain in this story. She is the person who got lied on, fought back through the legal system, won, was disrespected after winning, watched the defendant evade payment, watched the defendant rebrand, watched the defendant keep talking, and then politely asked the court to enforce the win she already had. That is not vengeance. That is enforcement. That is the legal system doing what the legal system is designed to do. Anybody framing Cardi B as the aggressor in this case is missing the entire timeline. She did not start this. She finished what was started against her. There is a difference. A massive, fundamental difference. I am going to land this plane now, but before I do, let me give you the 3 takeaways I want every single person in this comment section to walk away with. Number 1, if you are in any kind of public life, online or offline, and you have a non-disparagement agreement, treat it like a stove. Do not touch it. Do not flirt with it. Do not test it. Do not sit next to it pretending the heat is not real. Number 2, if you ever get hit with a major judgment, do not under any circumstances start playing musical chairs with your assets. Every transfer is a paper trail. Every rebrand is a fingerprint. Every bank account name change is a clue. Sit still. Pay what you can. Negotiate. Settle. Move forward. Number 3, if your spouse is the one running your business through their accounts, get a real attorney, set up real structures, and never under any circumstances put either of you in a position to be deposed about how the bills get paid. Because confessions under oath do not get unconfessed. They get filed. They get printed. They get cited. And finally, the angle I want you to walk away with, because I have not heard a single other creator say it out loud. This is the Alex Jones model. This is InfoWars 2.0 with a smaller scope and a more dramatic personality. Cardi B's legal team is not improvising. They are executing. They are running a play that has already won at a higher level than this. And anybody who keeps acting like this is just another lawsuit with another payment plan at the end is not paying attention to the way the law has evolved over the past few years. The receivership tool is a guillotine, and once the court agrees to drop the blade, nothing the defendant does after that matters. The assets get cataloged. The assets get valued. The assets get auctioned. The judgment gets satisfied. The platform gets handed to whoever is next. Period. There is one more thing I want to plant in your head before you close this tab. Every viral creator on this platform should be watching this case like their own career depends on it. Because in a way, it does. The line between commentary and defamation is getting thinner every single year. The plaintiff's bar is getting more aggressive. The receivership remedy is getting more popular. The case law is stacking up. And the next person who builds a channel on the backs of other people's lives without understanding the legal exposure attached to that business model is going to find out the same way Tasha K is finding out. The hard way. The expensive way. The way that ends with somebody else owning your name. So that is where we are. That is what this filing actually means. That is why your favorite creators are talking about it in hushed voices and your favorite attorneys are talking about it in loud voices. That is why attorney Simone Redwine is putting up lives and walking people through every paragraph. That is why this is not just a celebrity gossip story. This is a legal turning point that anybody with a platform and a mouth needs to be tracking with both eyes open. Now I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me. Do you think Cardi B is going to win this round too? Do you think Tasha K can still pull a rabbit out of the hat? Do you think the husband regrets every single word he said in that deposition, or do you think he still doesn't get it? Drop your prediction. Drop your receipts. Drop the moment you knew this case was bigger than people were letting on. I am sitting here. I am reading every comment. I am replying when I can. And if you have not already, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, share this video with a friend who has been calling you non-stop about this case, because we are not done. There is going to be more. There is always more. And when there is, I will be back in your face on this channel, breaking it down with you line by line, court filing by court filing, until the credits roll on this whole story. Y'all be safe. Y'all be smart. Y'all be careful what you say on the internet. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye. One last thing. One last thing before I really close this out. I want to talk about the silence that is about to follow this story. Because the loudest thing in a courtroom after a receivership order is the silence that comes from the defendant. The silence is where the channel used to be uploading 3 times a week. The silence is where the social media posts used to be. The silence is where the lives used to run for hours on end while she sipped her coffee and read off her notes. That silence is going to feel like a glacier moving across the internet. Slow. Cold. Final. People who have followed Tasha K for years are going to refresh the page and wait for a video that does not come. And then wait another day. And then another. And then they will realize that the era is over. Not because of cancellation. Not because of trends. Because of a piece of paper signed by a judge. And that piece of paper does not care about audience numbers. It does not care about loyalty. It does not care about how many subscribers think the whole thing was unfair. It only cares about one thing. Satisfying the judgment. That is the only metric that matters now. The only one. So I want you to remember, when the channel goes quiet, when the lights go off, when the videos stop, that the silence is not random. The silence is the sound of a legal system finishing its sentence. And let me leave you with this. Cardi B did not invent the receivership. The Sandy Hook families did not invent it either. The law invented it, decades ago, for exactly this kind of situation. The legal world has been waiting for a generation of defendants to test it at the influencer level. And now we are watching that test happen in real time. Whatever the final ruling looks like, this case is already in the law books. This case is already being studied. This case is already changing the conversation about what creators can and cannot do online when a court tells them to stop. Tasha K may not see herself as a precedent. But the next generation of attorneys will. The next generation of judges will. The next generation of defendants will. That is what makes this so much bigger than $4 million. Stay tuned. We will be here when the next filing drops. Y'all stay sharp. Protect your name. Protect your brand. Protect your contracts. Read every motion. Watch every ruling. Because the next case study could be sitting right next to you in a comment section. And the only shield any creator really has is the discipline to know when to stop talking.